Hey, kids cook real food. Katie Kimball here with a solo episode of the Healthy Parenting Connector. I often invite other experts to help you, parents who so desperately want to raise healthy kids who become healthy, independent adults, get the information they need. Today, I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about something that is potentially one of the best gifts of parenting that I've received. My kids are currently second grade, sixth grade, a freshman, and a senior. So there's a lot of feels this year, this second half of my oldest senior year. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of beginnings and a lot of endings. And endings always get you reminiscent, right? And grateful and nervous, a lot of feels. We also, of course, just lost my mother, and her funeral was last weekend, and some beautiful, beautiful stories happened at the funeral. I talked to our priest the next day, and he said, he complimented my daughter, Leah, who's our freshman. She read one of the Bible readings. And this was the first time that she had ever, stood up in front of church with the microphone and done this. This was new for her. It's something I've done since I was about her age. And he complimented her. She did a wonderful job. And he said, but the best part was watching Paul's face. Paul is our senior, sitting in the front row. And so watching the big brother be so proud of his little sister reading and doing a good job. He said Paul was just beaming. So much so that our priest choked up again, telling me. I choked up hearing it. I'm getting a little emotional right now. How beautiful is that? I mean, oh my goodness. I have said for years that I want my kids to be good friends when they're adults. I want my kids to be desperately good friends when they're in their 30s and in their 40s and having their own kids. And, I want to raise kids who go on vacation together as adults, whether I get to go or I'm already checked out of the world. It breaks my heart when I hear about adult siblings who don't really like each other, or that classic scene of kids fighting in the back seat, or I hear from a lot of people in our community who will say, oh, I wish I could leave my teenagers at home with the littler ones or whatever, but they wouldn't respect each other. They couldn't do it. They would fight. And I'm I can't. My heart weeps a little bit. I can't really imagine that, because my life is different. And I don't exactly know what we did right to create this culture where our kids, truly love each other. It's not just Paul and Leah. They've always been close. They're the older two. But even our youngest, Gabe, is so proud. Oh my gracious, so proud of everything the big kids do. The big kids had a band competition a couple of weeks ago, and the little boys were they were bouncing around and just jamming to the jazz music so much in the seats that someone later said, oh, are these your boys? We were just watching them enjoy the show, and enjoying watching them enjoy the show, right? There seems to be a theme here. People enjoy watching my kids watch their siblings because they're so proud, and they're so connected. Leah is our only girl, and she's constantly helping the brothers find things, helping them organize things, helping them make lists. She jumps in. I tease her all the time. I call her little mama, or mama number two. But she just desperately loves her brothers. She is deeply in pain, and has been for the last year or two, that Paul's about to leave, that she's running out of time to be with him. So how did we do that? If that's something that sounds attractive to you, if you say, well, yeah, Katie, I want my kids to be friends. I'm tired of them fighting. Not only am I tired of them fighting, but I want them to have those relationships. I want them to have those roots. I want them to hang out when they're in their 30s and 40s, and that the cousins are all best friends too. So I tried to deconstruct as I was not falling asleep very well last night. I tried to deconstruct, what did we do? What is the process to get your kids to love each other? And I will say that it's not something that happens in a day. It is definitely a culture we have built. But as we know, cultures can shift in our world, which means cultures can shift, I truly believe, in our families with the right intentionality from adults. So I'm going to talk about 5 things I think we did that maybe you can emulate, and then the top 3 steps that you can take today, even if you have older kids. Because obviously, we have been putting these in place for 18 years, right? Rome was not built in a day. Kimball family siblings love each other culture was also not built in a day. But here's what I believe is at the foundation. First is we set up an I love you culture, a we love each other culture. We're constantly saying things to our kids, and again, different language when they're toddlers and when they're teens, but we say things like, oh, like we love each other, we take care of each other, right? And of course you would love your sibling. That's our expectation, that they would love each other, that they would spend time with each other, that they would compliment one another as we try to compliment them. So setting up an I love you culture, a we love each other culture, as young as possible, whatever age your kids are, start that today, that is the expectation. I think we provide opportunities because of the way we value life skills, because we value family responsibilities, that infuses into the culture opportunities to serve each other, right? Every chore we do is serving others. Particularly cooking is very obvious, right? Because cooking is incredibly tangible. You receive the fruits of cooking right away, and you're generally all together. It's a little bit more fruitful feeling than folding someone's socks. When our kids cook for the family, we always make sure that we tell everyone to thank the cook, right? So there's that built-in spring of gratitude that is welling up toward the other person. I mean, there's got to be some brain science there too. The more we are grateful for and toward another person, the more bonded we are to them. That's what it's all about. When I say we create an I love you culture, it's not just in our words. We are like intentionally doing everything we can to build very strong bonds between each of the members of our family. And one of the ways we do that is to give them chores. I don't know if that sounds crazy, but I bet I would love to see sociological research on this. I bet in families where there are more, or at least some, right, where they exist, regular family responsibilities, family chores, family contributions, that there are stronger bonds between the siblings. I bet that is true across the board. What else do we do? Number 3 is, doggone, we spend time together. We go on family trips. We expect people to show up for family dinners, for Sunday brunch as much as possible. We've been like, our hearts have been torn asunder this year because Paul got so busy as a senior, so busy. He has missed a lot of family dinners, and we all feel it. Why? Because that has been our norm, right? Our norm is as many family dinners as possible, as many family Sunday brunches as possible. It's all until someone gets really, when someone is missing, it leaves a gap. When someone's missing, it leaves a gap. And that's because that has been the culture that we've created. If you don't have those opportunities where the family is together, it's time to start creating those. I think also when it comes to hurting one another, like how do we deal with when the hurts happen? Because they're going to. Oh my goodness, my kids aren't perfect. They definitely fight. They break each other's stuff. They get into each other's stuff. Like it is, please do not hear me say that our kids love each other. Therefore, we have this like some picture perfect, movie life. No, oh gracious. No, we have all the same fights, but I think they're smaller. I think they're less often, and we get through them quicker. And part of it is because of how we teach kids to say, I'm sorry. So this is number 4, is teaching true remorse in all situations, but particularly with siblings. I mean, I never let the kids get away with just the, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not about words. It's about actions. So when one kid hurts another, of course, as a parent, I'm going to take care of the one who has been hurt first, calm their emotions, give them all the hugs they need. Then I go to the perpetrator. We talk about how the other sibling felt, what they want to feel that way. We try to build true remorse, not just an apology, right? An apology is words. Remorse is a change of heart, right? To redo something, to repent, to have remorse. The prefix re is about turning around. It's about changing. So we teach remorse. And most of the time, if a child has done something to affront the other, they need to make amends for it. They need to do a chore for that other child. They need to go get something for, even if it's a 2-year-old has hurt a 5-year-old, if that 2-year-old, I will create instances. I'll say to the 5-year-old, well, what do you need? What are you about to do next? Oh, I'm just going to sit down and read, Mom. Perfect. 2-year-old that just hurt the 5-year-old, would you please go get your brother's book? Because I need you to do something for them because you took something from them. Does that make sense? So we teach remorse and we teach sort of this, retribution, that you fix what you have done in some way. In some way. It takes creativity. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes brain power. But guys, it's so worth it. Holy cow, is it worth it? So worth it. Teach true remorse. Number 5 is, and this one might not be the most popular. That's why I put it last. If it's controversial, great. I love discussing things that not everyone accepts right away. Number 5 is that a little suffering and a mutual enemy goes a long way. If you think about people to whom you are very bonded throughout your life, it happens quicker and deeper when you go through stuff. I want to use a different word. When you go through stuff together, hard stuff, painful stuff. When you get through the hard things together, you are more quickly and more deeply bonded to them. And when you're fighting a mutual enemy, right, you are a team. It creates a team. So it's not that I do this on purpose, but I will rejoice in the times where my husband and I have to be the adults, have to be the parents, have to say the things the kids do not want to hear, have to hold our ground. And sometimes, it's easy as parents to go, oh, like we're just being mean. We're being too strict. Like we should back off, what we initially said. No, be consistent, because here's the silver lining. When all the kids are mad at you, is that, first of all, you're an adult. You need to build your emotional resiliency enough that you can handle that. When all your kids are mad at you, that little suffering and that mutual enemy does go a long way to bond them together. And I will joke about it. I'll say, oh yeah, someday all my kids will be laying out on a psychologist's couch going, oh, my mom did this or my mom did that. But you know what? They're all talking about the same mom, which means they're going to have stuff to talk about together. Don't be strict for the sake of being strict. But when you create consistent rules that make sense and you follow through with them and you are consistent, when all the kids are mad at you at the same time, they have something to converse about. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I really think it works. Not as the only strategy, right? That would be kind of disordered. But as a piece, it's something to just rejoice in when maybe you're having a hard time being consistent. Maybe you feel like you're an ogre or like a dictator coming from above. That's when you go, okay, but here's the silver lining that Katie Kimball told me about. And last thought, this is a bonus. This is not in the 5, but I wondered if kids are more bonded together when you have more than 2. I don't know if this is true, but because we have more than 2, if they're fighting with one of them, they at least have others to go talk to, and they have more people to be proud of. They have more people to look up to. They have more people to serve. They have more people with whom to fight that common enemy and talk about how terrible their parents are. I don't know. You probably can't change that one. But if you do have more than 2 kids, maybe it's a little bonus for you. So we talked about the 5 aspects of our family life that I think have played into this beautiful result, this amazing gift for which I'm so, so grateful, that all my kids deeply, truly, authentically love one another. They respect one another and they are proud of each other. It's so cute. It's so beautiful. So if you have kids who are, older than 1 and 2 and 5, and you're thinking, but I don't, Katie, my kids do fight all the time. They don't respect each other and I don't like it. If you want to make the change, here are the 3 first steps that you can do to begin to build that family culture of loving one another. First, I want you to raise your expectations. Okay. I want you to look at my family and say, you know what? Katie's mostly a hot mess. She overslept her alarm this morning and missed half of her 1-hour meeting with her project manager. The house is not clean. I cleaned the bathrooms last night at 10 p.m. Not an ideal time to do housework for the first time in a month. I am not perfect. I am a normal mama with lots of faults and failings and weaknesses. And I yell at my kids and I have to apologize to them. I'm a normal mom, just like you. And somehow we have kids who love each other. So I want you to raise your expectations and believe that it's possible. Believe that when your oldest is a senior, that maybe he will spend a couple hours composing music so that his 6th grade brother, who's been playing his trombone for 5 months, could play Amazing Grace at the beginning of their grandma's funeral together and help him get better. That this same brother will spend hours helping either of his little brothers prepare for their theater auditions. It's happened in this year. My kids help each other. They serve each other. They give to one another. I promise it's possible. I want you to believe that. That is step one. In your mind, raise those expectations that it doesn't have to be the way it is now if you don't like the way it feels. Okay? Change your expectation. Number 2, make it a goal. Try to be intentional. This is my goal. I want my kids to love each other. I've said it over and over throughout the years, and now I get to be grateful that it's coming true. Okay? So say that. Talk with your spouse. If you've got other people, grandparents, babysit your kids or whatever, you've got a spouse. I hope you have a spouse. That makes it a lot easier. Talk to them about this goal. Make it intentional, because that's going to change your language. If you intentionally want your kids to love each other, you will naturally change your language to begin to create that culture of, we do love each other. Say it like it's true. Say it like you mean it. Say it like it's already true, and it will become true just because you're saying it, and that will change your behavior, and that will change your kids' behavior. And finally, number 3, right? Those are both like mindset, language stuff. The actual first step you can take, I say, is choose one of 2 ways from my list of 5. And the 2 that I would recommend starting with are prioritizing family dinners or implementing family chores. Just choose one, add the other one in later. But if you can have that quality time together, hugely, hugely impactful and powerful. If you can create the family responsibilities, again, with the language of, with the expectation of, we serve one another. We're all in this household together. We're going to give to one another. Hey, you folded laundry today. Everybody thank this person who folded the laundry, right? If you can use those family chores to create that atmosphere of service, huge to bond the kids. And then, of course, stay consistent in your parenting so you can be that common enemy. I got to give a hat tip, of course, to how we can make it easier for you to both have family dinners, but especially create those family responsibilities, right? Obviously, I teach kids to cook. If that sounds hard and scary to you, hop into one of our courses. Go grab our free knife skills preview and try it out, right? I will make it easier for you to get your kids in the kitchen so that you have kids who can make something. It doesn't have to be the whole dinner. Who can make something that's part of dinner or something that's part of a snack, so that you have an automatic platform for all your other kids to say thank you to the first one, right? I can help you do that. Also, quick note, we've got our Life Skills Now Summer Camp Season 2 coming up in June 2023. We are collecting amazing expert camp leaders. We're going to have, I think we've got a laundry workshop coming. We definitely have some on hospitality, on planning a party, plating food beautifully, arranging flowers. We're going to have car maintenance. We're going to have financial information, how to care for your money, and lots of little ways, and plenty of recipes, fun things that kids can make, and a little bit of gardening. Lots of ways where you can build that culture of taking responsibility, doing some chores, and helping the family out. So that is not available for registration yet, but I want to get you excited because it's going to be another great season. Once again, I'm Katie Kimball for Kids Cook Real Food and the Healthy Parenting Connector. And my deepest desire for you is that you can come to a point where you say, I am so grateful that my kids love each other. I couldn't imagine a better gift from the hard work, a better return on the hard work that I've put into parenting than seeing my kids love one another. Get started, raise expectations, be intentional, and make it happen.